Imagine you are standing before a massive iron gate. When it closes behind you, the light slowly disappears. The sounds of the outside world fade away. All that remains is the cold breath of stone, the smell of dampness, and a silence that seems endless. In this place, not everyone lost their life, but many lost themselves. This was the Bastille, a structure once seen as a symbol of fear across Europe. The Bastille was built in the late 14th century in Paris, originally to protect the city from attack. Over time, however, the fortress gradually became a special place of detention for those the royal authority considered a threat. What made the Bastille terrifying was not only its thick stone walls and towering watchtowers, but the way people were sent there. Many were never given a public hearing. With nothing more than a royal order, they could vanish from society for years, sometimes forever. The moment someone entered the Bastille, what most former detainees later described was not physical pain, but the feeling of being crushed by the space itself. The air inside the fortress was always cold, damp, and heavy, as if the stone walls were draining the breath from the human body. Long and narrow corridors stretched on endlessly. Low ceilings forced anyone walking through them to lower their head instinctively, creating a constant sense of submission. Weak light, filtering through small openings, could not push back the darkness, only forming pale patches that distorted every movement and made it unsettling. Each footstep echoed through the enclosed space, repeating again and again like a reminder that you were completely isolated. In the Bastille, even silence carried weight. There was no need for threats or screams. The structure itself was designed to make people feel small, fragile, and entirely controlled. The Bastille did not speak, but it whispered into the mind of everyone who entered that there was no escape. One of the most frightening aspects of the Bastille was prolonged isolation, which slowly warped perception. Detainees had no clocks, no calendars, and no clear signs of day or night. Natural light was almost non-existent. Time became blurred. Yesterday, today, and tomorrow merged into a single endless stretch without an end point. When a person no longer knows how long they have been confined, the mind begins to drift. Many records show that some detainees gradually lost their ability to focus. They forgot even the simplest things. Some began repeating meaningless phrases. Others spoke to their own shadow on the stone wall, simply to feel that they still existed. The Bastille did not rely on open brutality. Prolonged silence, monotony, and isolation were enough to erode the human spirit day by day, hour by hour, until personal will slowly dissolved. Alongside psychological pressure, living conditions inside the Bastille were also harsh. In winter, stone rooms became so cold that breath was visible in the air. On damp days, moisture seeped into the walls, filling the space with a heavy, mouldy smell. Beds were often nothing more than stone platforms, or thin wooden boards placed close to the floor, offering little real rest. Food rations were limited and repetitive day after day. They were barely sufficient to maintain existence, not to restore strength. Physical movement was almost non-existent. Many people sat or lay in the same small space for hours on end. The body weakened over time. Muscles wasted away. Endurance steadily declined. Yet what drove many detainees to despair was not the cold, hunger, or exhaustion. It was the feeling of being forgotten, when there were no letters, no news, and no one spoke their name. Many began to believe they had been erased from the outside world. That family, friends, and society had moved on without any place left for them. The Bastille did not only confine the body, it confined hope itself. For decades, the Bastille stood as a symbol of absolute power. Merely hearing its name was enough to inspire fear. It represented a system in which human fate could be decided in silence, without explanation, without fairness. Then came July 14th, 1789. The people of Paris attacked the Bastille, breaking through gates once thought impossible to breach. Ironically, at that moment, only 7 detainees remained inside. Yet this event was more than a release. It marked the collapse of a symbol. The Bastille ceased to be a fortress of fear and became the opening milestone of the French Revolution and a turning point for Europe. Today, The Bastille no longer stands. Its stone walls have been torn down, but its shadow remains in history. The Bastille reminds humanity that when power goes unchecked, people can create places where their own kind are trapped in darkness. And sometimes, the most frightening things are not what we can see, but what happens in silence, behind closed doors.